in some cases, their social relations that also may be badly affected. Some emotional issue within the person. That means individual differences, or you can say interrelations within the person. Some emotional issues may be seen in these persons. So, and some sort of developmental issues, like what are their, for example, if the uh, client is around 90-20 years of, he is the student, their education development, their social development, and their other developmental milestones may be affected, adversely affected on this particular client. So here, these are all the individual plans to reduce their intake of substance that we can suggest. Okay, being a counselor in the counseling process, these are the issues we have to address. When we address this issue, first of all, we have to find out the, as I mentioned earlier also, whenever we are addressing any issue in the counseling process, we have to understand his socioeconomical status, age, or you can say demographic details, age, and his what is demographic details and socioeconomical status. After getting thorough knowledge of these things, it's better to go for the actual counseling process. So in this case also, in the counseling of substance use also, age-related issues, for example, if he is above age of 60 or 70, that counseling to this particular clients maybe somehow it's different. If it is college-going children, so means 18 to 20 years of age students, the counseling is in a different way. If there is a middle-aged person, for example, if the middle-aged person, the productivity, you have to focus not only financial aspects and the family issues, we better to focus on the productivity of the particular client or the person, because as we mentioned, we have some uh, age-related issues, like for example, the middle-aged person. Middle-aged person means we can say it's a middle age means age of productivity. For example, above 30 years or 35 years, we call this age as the age of productivity. So this productivity definitely will adversely impact. The adversely impact will be there on the middle-aged person on his productivity. Okay, so these things depending on the age, depending on the socioeconomical status, so better depending on the profession. So better to give the proper counseling process when we give this type of substance abuse issues. Then some other multicultural perspectives also we need to understand. Multicultural perspectives means, for example, in some culture, in some type of socio cultural systems. So the this type of substance use is quite in a different way. For example, in the some type of population, they will take it as a social status. Okay, those things is better to understand. And for example, if the context also better to understand, what is the context of their using. Okay, so the importance of the content. One is the client diverse population, cultural issues of the client. Second one, the context they are using this substance. Third one is the other any perspectives of their from their perspective, because some whether their thought process may be in a different way. For example, some students or some professional students, they'll use this substance as a it's a symbol, or you can see it's a status of that particular group. In some cases, for example, if it is a laborer or a daily wages person, his perspective is different. He will use this substance to reduce his stress levels, to burdens, to relax. That may be his perspective. So these type of issues we better to understand, or you can say multicultural perspective, you can say. So these things we better to understand when we are giving counseling to this substance issues. Then what are the various issues? What are the various programs to address these issues? What are the various programs of counseling to reduce this substance abuse? One is the outpatient type of systems, procedures you can follow. For example, ask them to visit any nearby de-addiction centers or hospitals. That is one important programs will give to the clients. Okay, outpatient, as an outpatient you can admit, and as an outpatient you can visit any hospitals or de-addiction centers. Second one is some therapeutic communities, like some sort of therapeutical centers, de-addictions in de-addiction centers also, some sort of therapeutic centers, they'll go and they'll visit to the therapeutical centers. Then another important thing is, in some cases, if there is he is any employee, that person who is taking this type of substances, if he is employee assistance program also will be there in some organization. They'll give some sort of support to this employees, and some type of counseling procedures. Okay, for example, drug addiction centers, and if there is any centers related to the persons those are alcohol dependence. Alcohol dependence means their total life is depending on the alcohol. Immediately after waking from their sleep, directly they'll go to the alcohol wine shops or any bars. Without the alcohol, even they won't functioning in a proper way. That means alcohol dependency. Okay, so counseling for alcohol dependency, that is a major issue in a present scenario. Okay, so these type of various counseling services will give to the persons those are having this type of issues. Then another important one is the some therapeutical process. As I mentioned, we need to give some therapeutical procedures, like as I told you in our previous classes, some models like ABC model, activated event, belief system, and the consequences. Here, as I given some examples just now, what the students, they will start taking off these substances as a status symbol. They'll think that by using these drugs or alcohol, the shape of their body, they will think that some sort of glow on their faces, And for example, if they use cigarettes, that is one type of status symbol in their group. So if they believe in this way, so better to change their belief system. For example, they by taking this cigarettes or alcohol, whatever the other substance, they are supposed to face, they'll face some sort of consequences. By believing in this wrong way, their activated events, ABC means B is the belief system, A is the activated event, C is the consequences. So they wrongly believe that by using these substances, these type of benefits you will get. In some cases, like some professionals, they are where they work in the professional setups, like the IT professionals, they'll believe that by taking these drugs or substances, they will have some type of relaxation. So by believing in this way, they'll start taking the substances. That means B is belief system. Taking this, using this substance is the activated event. So if they believe in a different way, in a wrong way, if they start taking these substances by believing the wrong way, so if we identify as a counselor, if we identify this is the wrong belief system, by believing in this way, they'll start using the substances. Better to explain them. These are the consequences we have to face. So consequences means, first of all, personal consequences means they'll have some sort of health issues. Those consequences we explain to the client. Second one is the personal consequences. Second one is the health consequences. Third is the financial consequences. Fourth is the family issues. Fifth is the some sort of psychological issues they'll face. So because of this, taking this type of substances, for example, if they use alcohol, initially they will use very minimum quantity of alcohol. Then day by day, they will use this substance in a different way. That means the quantity will be increased day by day. Initially, they'll take the minimum quantity. So after some days, after some weeks or some months, they'll take this substance in huge quantity. And in some cases, they won't take the proper food also. So taking these substances and not taking proper food, it leads some type of health issues initially. That means physiologically some sort of medical or health issues. Then same way, if it is continuous for months together or years together, so automatically these health issues leads some type of psychological problems. Means you can say substance induced psychosis. Means by using those substances, psychosis that is known as the substance induced psychosis. Means some psychological issues arised by using the heavy drugs, or you can say heavy substances. So these are the things we better to explain: financial aspects, personal consequences, family relational consequences, then health issues, and finally psychological issues, then social issues. So if we explain these consequences slowly and gradually, they'll understand. And means we need to show, we need to visualize, ask them to visualize those consequences. If they use heavy, if they heavily use, if their uses of substances, it's beyond to their control. The quantity is more, the quantity is increased. As I mentioned, there are some grades. One is non-problematic one, some are the problematic one, some are the casual issues. If this casual and social means once in a while, that's okay. If they are dependent on the particular substance and they wrongly believe that by using this substance, I'll have some sort of relax, I'll have some sort of this status symbol, I'll have some sort of glow on their face. These are the wrong belief systems of the client. So if you identify this is the reason of the wrong belief system of the client, better to explain all these consequences to the client and ask them to visualize what is going on, what will be in the next future, of course. Hello, am I clear? Any doubts in this?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this technique, this type of technique, we better to use in this substance abuse counseling process. Yeah. So in this counseling process, generally problem is that they won't accept. Initially, it's not so easy to explain all these things. So because drug addiction, substance use, the client, those are having this type of substance abuse. So they won't have that much of insight. So this insight improvement is the major aspect in this particular issue. Means they need to accept. First of all, if you improve the insight, then next one is the acceptance. If they accept it's a problem of their own self, or maybe the problematic issues maybe arise in their family and the financial status, even some sort of issues related to their professional setups. So because they won't attend in a proper way to the job workplace, so those are the professional issues they need to they'll face. So if we improve the insight improving means initial stage, or you can say it's a rapport establishment. Okay, so if you establish this rapport, if you improve this insight in the client, so it's somehow it will be the initial state. Initially, better to establishment of a rapport. Second one is the insight improvement, means we need to improve their knowledge. Maybe the knowledge of the particular client or the caregivers. So some education related to the caregivers, or you can say psychoeducation to the client as well as the caregiver also. These are the most important things we better to use in the initial status. Okay, so here when we are establishing the rapport, so better to improve the insight of the client. Got it? Then so we better to collect the data, means system. Okay, then we have some procedures to get the data. Data means any issue, especially in this issue of substance abuse. Data collection means there are various tools we can use to get the data from the client or from the caregivers. Data means, for example, if they are using this type of some sort of quantity per day or per week or per month, this data be better to get from the client as well as from the caregivers. That is number one. Number two, their financial status, the data related to their financial status. Okay, their monthly salary, whatever the income that related to the financial issues also, you'll have better to have the data. Then their family members, data related to their family members, data related to the person, data related to the financial status, data related to the family members, data related to the socio-economical status of the client or the person. So, as I mentioned initially, we are talking about the counseling procedure of the substance abuse. First one is the establishing rapport. In this establishment of the rapport, better to improve the insight of the client and psychoeducation of the client as well as the caregiver. Third is the acceptance, level of acceptance, better to improve. Then next one is the collection of data in various sources. From the various sources, we better to collect the data related to the person, data related to the finance status, data related to the family members, data related to the socio-economical status. So the tools, as we know, the tools in any data collection like questionnaire, interview, these type of tools we use in collection of this data. Then after completion of the data collection, better to have some screening. Screening means if there is any issues related to the medical, related to the psychological. This screening we better to go means any substance or any symptoms of withdrawal. Withdrawal symptoms means you know the withdrawal symptom. Withdrawal symptom means they won't go to the, they will withdraw from the social groups. That person, those are using the substance, they withdraw from the family. These withdraw from the professional setups. This type of withdrawal symptoms, if there is any, so those withdrawal symptoms better to screen out. And other screening procedure is any problems related to the medical or psychological issues. For example, if there is any LFT means liver functioning test. If in that file of the patient, if there is any this type of details, better to screen these things. So with the help of the medical professionals, better to have thorough medical checkups, like any issues related to the hemoglobin, any issues related to the liver functioning test, any problem related to their heart and other disease. Those things better to rule out. That is number one. Second one is, as I mentioned, see if the intake of the substance using of SS is excessive. Initially, medical issues, health issues will be started. Then later on stages, these health issues leads to some sort of psychological problems. So better to screen out these psychological issues also. The screening of the health issues with the help of the medical professionals, the screening of the psychological issues, for example, any stress related issues, any anxiety related issues in the client. So those things also better to screen out. Then if we screen out, if we find anything, any medical or psychological issues, If there is a medical issues, these issues can be addressed with the help of the medical professionals. The psychological issues means directly better to go for the psychological counseling to address these psychological issues of the client. Uh, Based on this screening program, we will plan to reduce their stress levels or anxiety levels. In some cases, as I mentioned, if you want to change their thought process, as I mentioned, ABC model or CRT, cognitive restructuring techniques. If they don't have proper understanding, better to improve their understanding, or if there is any negative understanding of, in some cases, for example, in some case, if there is any family issues leads to using of these substances, better to address those. For example, in some cases, if there is any conflict within the family, if there is any problem within this family, like wife and husband, it leads to some type of substance abuse or substance usages. So if this issues, if we find, better to address the issue related to the family members, or you can say conflict management. As a counseling process means, counseling is some type of counseling related to the conflict management. So if there is any conflict within the family, if there is any conflict within the workplace, if there is any conflict within the education institution, if there is any conflict within the organizational, so those things better to address by using the CRT model or ABC model, then address the actual issue of the substance usages. So these are all the various procedures generally in the counseling process we follow. In some cases, if there is any problem with the children, or you can say youth, for example, they because of their behavioral issues, if they use this type of substances, better to modify their behavior, or you can say behavior modification technique also generally we apply in these issues. Hello, was it okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any doubts? And some, in some cases, some groups, they'll alcohol anonymous group. So here in this group, they will form a group. These type of persons, those are wanted to stop their drugs or especially alcohol. They will form a small group of 10 or 15 members. So if the person, any one of that particular group, if he strongly wants to reduce the intake of their substance, that is one type. In some cases, by some psychological counseling procedures or some other procedures, these in this group, any one person, if he stops taking their substance usages, so they will educate the other members in the group. They will share their experiences in the particular group. Okay, they will form a group of this type of persons. If there is any success story within the any one of this group member, he will explain his experiences. He will share his experiences in this particular group. So if by usage of this type of sharings, this type of exchanging of their emotions, so other members also will have some sort of motivation from that particular person. Slowly, the other members in the group also, there is a chance of reducing their intake of substances, usage of the substances. Okay, So these type of groups. Okay. Then another important thing is that rehabilitation services. There are so many rehabilitation services. They will in the rehabilitation centers. There are some rehabilitation programs they use, they apply to reduce their intake of substances, usage of substances. We have so many rehabilitation centers. So in the rehabilitation centers, combination of some services, combination of some facilities like medical professionals, a group of medical professionals, and some therapeutical procedures, and some other relaxation techniques. So these type of combination, this type of multi services. Okay. So these type of services they will provide, in the rehabilitation centers. So in through the rehabilitation centers also, it is easy to address these issues. So, but whenever we suggest the rehabilitation centers, their services, whether they are in a proper way or not. So those things we better to check. Then we better to suggest these persons to go to approach any rehabilitation centers, or you can say de-addiction centers. So these de-addiction centers or rehabilitation centers, they will functioning with the help of the other professional like medical professionals, therapeutic procedures, and yoga specialists. Some sort of naturopathy also they'll involved in their rehabilitation centers. Okay. So in some cases, so once they stop these substances, there is a chance of relapse. Relapse management also important, or you can say relapse management technique. For example, if they stop these substance usages, so better to suggest them to take some precautionary measures to avoid the relapse. To again, they'll go to the, for example, if a person daily at the time of some evening 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, or you can say evening 6 or 7 o'clock, while they some cases while they're returning from their workplace, like after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, they'll go to the directly they'll go to the wine shops or that is some other bars. They will take their this substance, or you can say alcohol. In this case, better to ask them to avoid to go to that particular route while they're returning from the workplace to their residence. So ask them to change their route, because some sort of signals from their mind automatically they will approach their that is wine shops or the some other this type of bars. So relapse management also important. Once they stop, some sort of techniques we better to suggest to the individuals to continue the same status. For example, they stop. So while they go to that particular place at the time of 5 o'clock or 6, while they're returning from their workplace, automatically some sort of signals they'll get from their brain. That is the reason ask them to avoid going that particular place, route. Actually, what we suggest means better to change their route from their workplace to their resident. That is number one. Number two, better to avoid that particular time, and better to have some diversion programs, like for example, if they take particular time of 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, in the same particular 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, so we ask the person to involve any recreational activities, Okay, this type of suggestions to avoid the relapse, repeating the same habit after stopping their usage. That is one thing. Ask them to involve any recreational programs, the particular time of or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Or we ask them, generally we ask the family, the person to involve any recreational activities or to spend some time at the particular time to the family members or by watching some TV, some other programs. These type of relapse management techniques we suggest to the person. For example, the person is having the habit of taking cigarettes, smoking. Okay. So generally what we suggest to the person means, so for example, daily if he take 10 cigarettes per day, we ask them to reduce the intake of cigarettes instead of taking 10 cigarettes, 8 cigarettes per day for 3 days or 4 days. Then 6 cigarettes for 3 or 4 days, and so on. 4 cigarettes, 2 cigarettes. So, as I mentioned, first of all, we will explain the consequence of using this substance like alcohol or cigarettes or any other things, financial, it is aspects, family, health, and social aspects. We will explain all these consequences by using this ABC model. So, whenever they'll go to the cigarette shops, we will suggest a person not to purchase a cigarette packet. So when they are in the process of reducing the cigarette smoking, intake of cigarettes, so we will ask them, we will suggest the person to take only one cigarette. That is one technique we use. Another one is that, for example, the person morning around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock will take first cigarette. Uh, Previously used to take each cigarette per 1 hour gap. Now we will suggest to reduce the cigarettes intake. So we will ask the person, for example, if he take the cigarettes at the time of 7 o'clock, instead of taking 8 o'clock, we ask that person to take some more gap. Like instead of taking 8 o'clock, better to take the cigarette at 9 or 10 o'clock. Means the gap between the intake of one cigarette, usage of one cigarette, consuming one cigarette, and second cigarette. Previous was 1 hour. We suggest the person to take the gap of 2 hours or 3 hours initially. Means per day, instead of taking 10 cigarettes, 6 cigarettes or 5 cigarettes or 7 cigarettes. Then after 3 days or after 1 week, then instead of taking consuming, or you can say taking one cigarette for 3 hours, after 1 week or 10 days or 15 days, we will suggest the person to take cigarettes within the gap of 5 hours. Then after 1 week, morning one cigarette, afternoon one cigarette, then evening time one cigarette. Then after some gap, after 1 month or 2 months, we will ask the person, we will suggest the person taking some individuals. They'll say, sir, immediately after the tea, after coffee, it's my habit to take one cigarette. So in that case, after 1 month or 2 months, if they reduce cigarettes taking from 10 to 2 or 3, we suggest to the client, we suggest to the individuals, instead of taking cigarettes after tea or coffee, you take any nut powder or any type of some sort of this dry. This is the way of relapse management. This is the technique of relapse management of any substance usages. So that slowly, after stopping their substance usage, relapse management means again taking the cigarettes, again taking the alcohol. This is nothing but relapse techniques are the so important in this counseling procedure of the substance usage. Okay.
Sir, I have small doubt.
Yeah.
Any of this substance usage is just a thought process or a thinking process whereby they got attracted because of one or other reason and they are continuing, and somebody
Yeah,
is
yeah.
trying
Maybe
to.
there are so many other even this type of you can say it is some type of social symbol,
Yeah.
social status.
So nowadays, we don't even need to go to that level where most of the influence is from the movies or the social media or YouTube
Mhm.
or anything for that matter, which is freely available even without stepping out, because internet is in everybody's hand. So
Mhm.
as the substance abuse or substance related issues, now
Mhm.
this content related issues is also having any solution, because I'm not sure about the rehabilitation or any such systems where people are addicted to a certain kind of content. Let it be movies, let it be YouTube, let it be something which is not productive enough even from the
Mhm.
childhood stage. So is there
Okay.
any counseling solutions for that kind where they would be it would be helpful?
Yeah, good. So here, as I mentioned, individualized plans for change. Individualized plans means we need to keep in mind the individualized at the particular person, his social conditions, his health conditions, his family issues. Individualized plan is by keeping the individualized issues, the person's issues, like his, as I have given some examples also. For example, he is the uh, daily labor. His income per day is around 400 or 500.
Sir, substance is clear, sir. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about content, which is not as a product which is physically touched.
Mm-hmm.
Because for anything as in substance, as the topic we are discussing, and you have
Mm-hmm.
given light of every aspect which could be thought of as a substance. Let it be cocaine, let it be cigarette, let it be alcohol, let it be drugs, let it be anything which could be physically touched. But
Okay.
this physical thing is affecting the mental status of that person, because of which you have already suggested all the measures how we have to deal with them in reference to the counseling or in reference to the family, in reference to relaxation technique, alternative technique. You have said everything about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
referring to the content which is not physically out there. It is just affecting because of somebody. It could be an anger, it could be something which is not there as a substance, but substantially it is affecting in a similar way as a substance, if I
So,
could
for
ask.
example, I mean, if I can add to that, it could be like a addiction to the games or porn addiction, like that, which is not tangible, but people are addicted to that.
It means you are talking about their it means their you can say it is a beneficial use you are talking about or casual use.
You could answer any one of it, sir, because the idea is to understand it from that point which is not physical in nature. Because let's assume the rehabilitation centers, there is a solution for everything, as in your own words, which you have repeated many times. But in this
Mhm.
substance context, I'm not sure if there is any solution for that other than I couldn't even anticipate that, because we are talking substance. I'm bringing content into it, into the context, nothing otherwise.
Okay, we give some examples if there is any problem. Just give any example. I'll.
To be precise, digital content, like somebody just said about the porn addiction or movies or watching YouTube. Just watching YouTube, there is nothing very specific. Just keep on watching. Or maybe daily serials, even when they
Mhm.
don't get anything out of it, just be there. Or watching news as if they are affected. So there are like content addiction, which is a digital content, to be very precise, where
Mhm.
do we have any such things as comparable to the substance abuse? Any
Online
one
So.
of these?
gaming is one of the best example because it is very prominent.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Online gaming. Perfect.
Mhm. So see, whatever the environmental issues
Sir,
force them.
I'm very sorry, sir. Just one other thing, because earlier class, Reddy sir also said last to last classes, There is some game for blue whale where people have conducted
Yeah. You
suicides
know,
also.
yes. I know it very well. Yeah.
It is
So
nothing related to substance abuse. It is psychologically somebody is
that's
framing
what. That's
them.
yes. So, so what are the environment? The environment, maybe the family environment, maybe that you can say occupational environment. Those environmental issues, if we find any, for example, if the 18 or 19 years boy or the girl, if they're habituated to use the excessive online games, that is the reason you're talking. That is the issue you're talking about, no?
Kind of, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Any
So,
one matter, because there are many, but just one, for example, like online gaming is one, could be
mm-hmm,
one.
mm-hmm,
Digital
mm-hmm,
content, watching movies, or like
yeah,
addicted to news, or
mm-hmm,
watching serials, or
mm-hmm,
addicted to porn. Like I could go on with any example, because somebody is new to that and they got
mm-hmm.
attracted, and they got so attracted it became an addiction.
Yes. So that's what I'm telling you. Better to change the environment, family environment. For example, some sort of triggered issues in the initial stage of getting that habituations. Yeah. So better to modify that environment. Ask them to reduce the usage of that particular time. For example, online gaming. Initially, some triggered issues. Those issues we better to find out. So if we verify those issues, what that is environment force them to habituate to the particular game. Okay. So if you address that issues, family environmental issues, or maybe the job issues, maybe the stress levels of the anxiety levels, out of their anxiety, they'll start their initial status. Initially, they'll start with their out of their anxiety, out of their curiosity. Yes. So here, if we find this type of any issues related to their curiosity, so better to address the particular issue by using the restructuring of the thought process. Yeah, cognitive restructuring can use here. And one more thing, we can explain the consequences by use the time by habituated to that particular game or any online or these games. Okay, some examples already we can give the examples also. There are so many cases like that. Totally, if they habituated to that particular game or any other type of this type of habits, they lost their even it is uh, uh, it is relations also with the family within the family. Okay, so better to address these sort of issues by explaining all the various consequences to the initially better to identify the root cause of this particular habit, then explain the various adverse consequences they are supposed to face in their future course of time. Is it okay?
Sir,
Yeah.
even when it is a little out of context, I just wish to ask one thing, if you
Mhm.
if you would want to answer that.
Yeah.
I can understand it is really out of context. So the people who have been trained as terrorists, or the people who have been trained for army or police, the
Mhm.
training is the same for either one of them. It is the way it is being taught, or the objectivity, or the visualization which is being given, because orders are given from top only for whatever the profession is. So I was just trying to understand, because everybody is put in the same bracket there of social, economic, psychological, everything is removed there. Do they
Mhm.
have to undergo any other kind of training in order to come out of that kind of issues, or these are people, this is a different thing altogether where we can't even talk about it? The terrorists,
Yes,
or
actually, this is not related to actual substance abuse. So, whatever the training given to these groups, it is totally related to social, I can say, unacceptable issues.
because in
Yeah.
the army also, irrespective
Mm.
of the social, financial, psychological issues, everybody is treated there equally, where every uniform or anything is there in the same platform. Other
Mhm.
than the aspects all we talked about, the how they have, you have to understand the demographics and all of that.
Mhm.
In those people, like in schools also, many schools also, once they come to
Mhm.
the school, it's all in one place. They
Mhm.
really have the effect, only it is felt otherwise in a wrong sense. So in that context, do we really need to wait till the time everything happens, or there are some identifications or some things which would trigger out to know, okay, this is the reason where we need to really check on this kind of people, like some
Yeah.
preventive things?
Mhm. See, for example, if you already mentioned the school environment, okay, as I mentioned earlier, family environment or the school environment. So that is the responsibility of the head of the institution or head of the various departments to identify these type of children or the students in their organization. No? If if they identify this particular student or his behavior, that is a responsibility of the teachers or the authorities, or you can say administrative personnel. Okay. For example, if in any class like ninth class or 10th class or maybe left level plus one or plus two, if some sort of odd behavior, if the teacher identify within the particular student, that is his or her responsibility to identify this particular child and to discuss this issue with their parents. Yeah. For example, if you take the family environment, if there is any change in the behavior of the their son or the daughter, that is a responsibility of the parent or is some type of personal, the type of behavior recently odd behavior if they find. So that is the responsibility of the parents to focus on the particular odd behavior. So they need to understand what is the reasons, what are the reason, what are cause, what are the root cause of this particular odd behavior or the problematic behavior. Same if it is a school environment, that is the responsibility of the persons there, professionals there, to identify the problematic behavior or undesirable behavior of the person, the student. If they identify, for example, previously he or she is to listen lessons properly, carefully, he or she is able to focusing on their regular educational activities. But in the recent times, if she or he is not in a position to focus on the regular educational or the school activities, that means some problematic behaviors, if they identify, then automatically they are supposed to focus on the particular student. And if it is possible, better to discuss this odd behavior of the student to the parents. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Then if they identify the issue, automatically what are the other next steps they can follow with the help of any psychological professionals or any other professionals.
Sir, suppressing any feelings is also considered as abuse or not?
That's what again and the same thing. If when we observe the any odd behavior, there are so many reasons we will find out. The problem with the within the child, any you can say it's a suppressed emotions or any such type of issues. That is the reason I repeatedly am telling the same thing. That is the responsibility of the caregiver. Can they say it's a family members or it may be in the school authorities. So what could be the reasons of the particular behavior? Then if they find out the actual reason, whether it is suppressed issues or any other issues, those things we can easily find out. Once they identify the particular issue, then how to address this issue, how to resolve the solution, how to resolve the issue, how to address the problem, how to solve the problem. That is the later on stages.
I'm very sorry, sir. There are two different things now. Like one is a substance abuse. Now the other one is the reason for getting into abuse. So the
Mhm.
process is to identify both the one which came first or the one which is suppressing or taking the superiority or the leading situation now. So substance use is happened because of a emotional depression or whatever, anxiety or depression, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yes.
then came the other thing, which is the substance abuse because of.
Exactly. Yeah, yes.
So which is to be
So
addressed first? With the
we better
reason
to
first?
address the emotional issues first, because these emotional suppressions leads to some other substance usage. That is the reason better to address this first one. If there is any suppressed thoughts, if there is any emotional issues, as I mentioned even earlier also, some 15-20 minutes, if there is any conflict in the family, that leads some type of substance use. That is the reason I told to address this family conflict. If it is any suppressed issues, if there is emotional issues, better to address these issues. So this is not actual solution of taking usage of substance. No? If they have this type of conflict within the family, it leads to some other substance usages.
Fair enough.
Got it?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Then we will move to the second one, that is counseling for patients with chronic illness. So here in the chronic illness means some sort of sudden onset of any issue, that is it leads to some sort of that is chronic illness. Okay, so here there are some issues like if there is any chronic illness. So one is the how to manage the crisis related to the medical aspects. Then how to control the symptoms of that particular chronic illness. Then what are the various treatment procedures? Okay, so these are the things we have to address in the counseling process. For example, if there is any issues related to the diabetic problem, okay, sudden if they find any after getting the tests, if they find any problem with their uh, uh, diabetics, or I can say any other issues related to their health. So first of all, what are the related health issues, symptoms? Then what are the medical facilities to address the particular issue? So that is the way we have to give the counseling procedures. And another example, that is if there is any issue related to the disability, like sudden onset of disability. Okay, some, for example, if they go to any hospitals, these maybe if there are any mental health centers, if any problem with their psychological issues, that means you can say it's a disability. If they find any disability within that particular individual, so first of all, what happens immediately, they'll have some sort of stressful conditions by knowing that disability to their children or to their family member. So here better to use some coping mechanisms. Okay, or we can say if there is any symptoms of this particular person. Okay, or an example I'll give you. If there is any if the person is not behaving in a proper way in the family, if they have some doubt about the particular child, if they go to the any medical health centers, if they diagnose this particular boy or the girl is having some sort of issue related to the mental retardation, MR, by administering the test, if they find any issue related to their mental, or you can say disability, or you can say mental retardation. Okay, so here, first of all, how to dealing with this particular issue means, so first of all, we need to check, we need to verify, we need to confirm, yeah, this is the particular issue related to their mental health, or you can say disability. So by knowing these symptoms, by understanding these symptoms, so they'll confirm, they will diagnose that this is a problem related to their mental health. Okay, just examples I am giving here. So here, first of all, is there any problem, or is there any chance to reduce their symptoms, or you can say controlling the symptoms? Okay, So, for example, if there is any chance to reduce their symptoms, so better to address those symptoms, better to reduce the symptoms of their mental health. Okay, here any mental health issue or any issue related to the medical health, psychological health or medical health, there are three important stages. One is the reducing, or you can say controlling the symptoms of the particular individual, or you can say health issues, medical health or psychological health. Number one, reducing the symptoms. Okay. Number two is there are three important chances. Again, I am repeating. One is reducing the symptoms or controlling the symptoms is number one. Number two means status quo maintain. The same status we better to maintain. Third one is that maybe chance of some next level advancement of the particular issue. So if there is a chance of advancement, means if there is any chance of increasing the symptoms, so better to counsel the person as well as the caregivers. It's a lifetime problem. So better to improve their coping mechanisms. Again, I'm repeating. So I'll repeat again. See, first one is the controlling the symptoms. That may be the health related to the medical health or the psychological health. Controlling the symptoms, reducing the symptoms of the particular issue. Number one. Number two is that maintain the status quo. Same. For example, if for example, MR people means you can say it's if the IQ level is below 70, means problem is with the child or the person. So if there is any, or one more example I can give, it's a Down syndrome problem. Okay, or if there is CT problem. If these both issues are related with mental health issues, these both are the lifelong issues, lifetime issues. So Down syndrome or any cerebral palsy. So only thing is, one important one is the reducing the symptoms if it is any chances. Second is the same symptoms for the lifetime. Third one is the taking some precautions to stop to the next level, reach into the next level. Even if you say schizophrenia also. So these are the various mental health disabilities, or you can say mental health issues. So if you want to address these type of issues, first of all, counseling to control the symptoms. Second is counseling to maintain the same status. And third one is the, if it is a lifelong issue, coping mechanism to the caregivers. And some, if they have their coping mechanisms, in the coping strategies also, some issues they need to face within the family, or you can say adjustment within the family, or you can say adjustmental issues. One is personal adjustmental issues may be arised. Second is family adjustmental issues. Third is the social adjustmental issues. Okay, these adjustmental, if they have any adjustmental problems within the family, within the person, within the society, those adjustmental issues also we have to address in our counseling process. Okay, some issues related to their children or adolescent. Okay, so as I mentioned, for example, the children issues like developmental delay, or you can say autism. These are the issues related to children. If this type of issues, if we find in the individual, or you can say children, so the parental counseling also needed here in this case. Like they'll have some sort of stressful conditions by knowing the issues related to the children. Okay, so some sort of emotional issues within the parents, some sort of issues related to the financial aspects, some type of issues related to their social relations with other members in the group, or you can say in the neighborhood issues. So these issues we better to address if we find any problem within the parental, or you can say within the family. Okay, some type of isolation. Okay, isolation means they won't mingle with other members in the society because of their family members issue. So this type of isolation issues may be find in their family. If you find such type of issues within the family members, or you can see the parents within the parental groups, so better to address this type of issues also. And some type of parents, they'll feel some loneliness, so they isolate themselves from the society. Okay, these type of social adjustment issues, if we find better to address these issues also, how to cope up with the situations, how to cope up with the society, how to cope up with the individuals in the family. These are all the issues we better to address. If there is any emotional issues with the members, or you can see the parental parents, so these emotional issues also better to address. Okay, so I already told you, as I mentioned, some issues. Uh, these issues may be the lifelong issues. So educate them, or you can say using psychological education, or you can say psychoeducation to the caregivers or the parents to cope up with the situation. This is one important thing related to the children. And some issues related to the adolescents. Adolescence means, as we mentioned, as we know, adolescence means this is the age of stress and strain, age of some emotional imbalances, age of it is role model. These are the various issues in the adolescent stages. These issues we better to explain. These are the various factors we better to explain to the client if he or she is in the adolescent stage, or better to explain to the parents or the family members of this particular individual. Okay, so because in this particular age of adolescent stage, some stressful conditions, some type of emotional imbalancing stages, some sort of social issue, some sort of personal, because of sudden change in their physical, emotional, and psychological issue, they'll generally they'll some adjustmental issues in this particular age of adolescent. So we better to explain these are the common things in any adolescent child. So these issues will be for, it's a temporary, it's only for time being. After that, after 1 or 2 years time, definitely they will be in a position to adjust within the person or maybe family or the society. Those things we have to explain as a counselors. Okay, so if we find this type of problems within the family, so for parents also better to give some sort of education related to their children or the person who is in the adolescent stage. And if it is possible, better to educate the teachers also. So if they have already, they'll have some sort of knowledge about their adolescent stages in their training part, in their training teachers. So maybe B.Ed or M.Ed, whatever the training may be. That is the one that is psychological, educational psychology. They'll have their training, these things, training courses of the teachers. So even though if they have their training courses, better to explain these issues or these educational issues to the teachers or the school authorities if there is any such issues if they find within the class or within the school. So, on emotional, physical aspects, better to address if there is any adjustmental issues in the adolescent stage. And in other areas of the chronic illness means chronic illness in adulthood, some sort of chronic illness in adulthood stages, or you can say middle age. So here, some problems related to their family or their workplace, or you can say occupational issues and financial issues. Better to address all these issues if the chronic illness in the middle-aged people or old-age people. And in this particular middle-age and old-age people, uh, some problem within the family or the financial aspects. These financial aspects, or you can say financial adjustmental issues, may be arised if this chronic illness is the middle age group or old age people. So those things are also better to address in this particular group. Then final one is the caregiving. So caregivers issues like caregivers problems, because if the family member is having some like middle age person or the old age person, some caregivers issues, like for example if the person is having some dementia, okay, Alzheimer's dementia, if there's any old age person having some problem related to dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, the problem is within the caregivers also, within the family means caregivers also. So caregivers burnout, some sort of members, that means family members have significant caregiver issues, like some caregiver issues related to the financial aspects. The caregiver may not be in a position to adjust with these issues. Some caregivers may be emotionally disturbed. Emotionally, they will have some problems, okay, within the family. So better to reduce the caregivers burden. If there is any stress levels of the caregivers, that stress levels, or you can say anxiety, some sort of emotional issues of the caregivers, or caregiver burden, like financial burden. Okay, these issues of the caregivers we need to address, and some problems related to the caregivers. For example, if the problem is the caregivers, the association, or you can say support services available for the chronic illness persons as well as the caregivers also. For example, if there is any disability, or you can say any problem of this old age or middle age persons, so the association of the caregivers or the caregivers group, also some caregivers, they form a group, they will share their issues within the group, so that they will have some sort of stress related issues. They will address these related issues, they will reduce their stressful conditions. So by discussing, by sharing of their stressful conditions, or you can say financial issues, if they discuss within this particular group, definitely there may be some relaxation techniques, some sort of stress related issues they'll reduce within the group of these caregivers. And some community resources also, community resource centers also available to support these chronic illness patients or the caregivers of these patients. Okay, and finally, some sort of coping skills will suggest to reduce their stress or anxiety. Then some support of social support, like emotional support, or you can say some sort of support services from the government side also, or you can say some material, or you can say some sort of literature related to this particular chronic illness, maybe the medical or maybe psychological issues. Some government support, or you can say non-governmental, government or non-governmental systems also, they will support to these patients or the caregivers of the patients. Then finally, there are some other support centers, support groups of these chronic illness like cancer, or can say any health related issues like diabetic or some sort of cardiovascular issues. So this type of chronic illness, if we find in the individuals, various services available within the society from the government or non-government services. If we as a counselors, if we have this type of, you can say it's a, you know, that's this available literature, or you can say available information, better to share that information to the patients as well as the caregivers of the patients, so that they'll utilize these services from their various sources, like as I mentioned, social support services, government and non-governmental support services. They'll avail the particular information about these services. Automatically they will be in a position to use these services, that is support services available for chronic illness patients as well as the caregivers. If there is any caregiver burden, and for example, if we have any, or you can say disability of a person, depending on their disability, some financial support from the government and some financial support from the non-government organization. For example, like for other disabilities, if there is any mental retarded person, some sort of pension they'll get, some sort of equipment they'll get from the equipment. Means, for example, there is any uh, person having disability, physical disability or mental disability or any other chronic illness. So depending on their severity, depending on the severity of the person, some financial assistance they'll get from the government or non-governmental organizations or from the social associations, like social support centers. So this type of support, this type of services, they will avail from the various sources. So this also we need to explain in our counseling process. So finally, in the counseling process, so our main objective is that, see, with any chronic illness, there are two important aspects. One is the medical perspective. Second is the psychological perspective. Medical perspective means that is the part of the medical professionals. Psychological perspective means there are some issues related to the psychological problem. Like for example, though they have some chronic illness, because of their stressful conditions, because of their anxiety, the problem may be increased. So that is the reason, as a psychological professionals, that is our responsibility to reduce that other psychological issues. Those are added to the actual problem. If we reduce that psychological issue, some sort of relief they'll get from the counseling procedures. So here, in any chronic illness, as I mentioned, in chronic illness, one part is the medical issues, medical or you can say health issues. Second is the psychological issues. If we find any psychological issue as a counselor, that is our part to reduce the psychological issues related to the person. And in some cases, because the problem of the health or the problem of the psychological issues, the psychological perspective, the patient may not be in a position to understand. Here, if it is the such case, that is the responsibility of the counselor to address the various issues or various psychological issues of the caregivers. So it means we are reducing the caregiver's burden, like psychological burdens, maybe the stressful conditions, maybe other psychological issues. So we will be in a position to reduce the burden of the caregiver. That means we are enhancing the coping strategies of the patient, in some cases, caregivers of the patient. Okay. Any doubts in this? Okay, then next class we will go for the next one, that is 22nd and 23rd units. Tomorrow's class we will discuss these units. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Good. So next we have to another class.
Thank
Two
you,
other,
sir.
that is, yeah. Tomorrow is
sir.
one class.
Yes,
And
sir.
23rd. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Third also there is another class, sir. Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, sir.
Saturday. Next Saturday, I think.
Saturday and
Tomorrow
Sunday.
is one. Sunday, I don't think. Sunday, tomorrow is the class is there. We have tomorrow one
Yeah.
class.
Yes, sir.
I think this is the next class will be tomorrow, and another is 23rd. I think 23rd is the last as per schedule given by university authorities. We have only two more classes. I think tomorrow and 23rd. Tomorrow the 17th, same time,
Yeah.
12 to 1:30. And I think 23rd is the last class. And we need to confirm from we have to get confirmation from I think as per the schedule given by the university authorities.
Okay.
We have only two more classes. It means 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 20th. There are 4 units. So tomorrow, 2 units I'll complete, 22nd and 23rd. The rest of the 2 units, like 24th and 24th, 5th units, I'll discuss in the next class, like 23rd class.
And sir, regarding the assignments, sir, again the date has changed for 30th April. Is it true, sir?
So submission of assignments under related issues, better to confirm from the university authorities.
Sir, it is no, sir. It has been given in the online that we have to submit within 30th of April.
30th of April, we have nearly 15 days time, no?
That's what, sir. That's why we took a doubt. And
no, but what are the dates mentioned in the university website? We better to follow those dates.
Okay.
And finally, one thing, I'll just within 2-3 minutes, I will come. You have 2-3. So how to write the assignments as well as your you are in the second year class now. You know how to write the assignments. And same way, examination point of view also better to write in the examination point of view. So you better to explain. For example, if there is any question related to this particular issue of the substance abuse. First of all, any issue related to this counseling psychology, for example, if the question is given in the this way, like for example, how to deal with the chronic illness, explain. If it is the question like this, okay, what to do first? What are the chronic illness? Just I am giving one example of how to nation point of view.
Yeah,
okay?
yes.
First of all, for example, if this type of questions, if you have in your examination question paper, how to deal with the chronic illness. First of all, explain. That is the question, for example. So first of all, you have to explain what is the chronic illness. Define the chronic illness. Any one example, 1 or 2 definitions you better to explain. That is number 1. Symptoms of the chronic illness.
Okay. Okay, sir. As of what we write in the exam, the same we have to write the assignments also.
Yeah, and I am explaining the both ways. That is the assignment as well as the
examination point of view.
See, examination also 70 marks paper, as the assignment is 30 marks. Both are important, no?
Yes, sir.
1/3 of the total marks will be in the assignments. The 2/3 will be in the assignment, that is main examination.
Yes,
anyway, you need to explain. This is the way you have to explain, maybe in the examination as well as in your assignments.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So first of all, yeah, you have to define. You have to define what is the chronic illness. Okay. And what are the symptoms of the particular chronic illness? For example, they mentioned the so and so chronic illness, means you better to explain the particular chronic illness. For example, in disability, for example, what is the disability? How can you see disability? We have some criteria of the disability. There are some symptoms of disability. These type of issues we have to explain initially, paragraph or 1 page, whatever the things may be. Okay. Next one is how to deal with the chronic as a counselor, because in the perspective of the counseling psychology, you have to explain as a
Sir? Sir?
then the various therapeutic procedures. If there is applicable CRT is applicable to this particular chronic illness, that one you have to explain. For example, any substance abuse, or you can say substance-related issues. What is the substance? What are those substances? That is clearly given in the text. So these are all the things. It's not so easy to explain as a counselor in the 15 or 16 classes, but it is there in your text. You can have some other information from other sources. Those sources you need to study, and it will be better to explain all these various issues related to the substance. Then how to address these substance abuse as a counselor in the counseling procedures. So if you want to get the these good marks, so better to write your answers in this way in your examination point of view or in your assignments.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
still,
sir.
if we have any doubt related to the examination, how to address this, how to the important question, next class or we have 2 classes, no? Tomorrow and 23rd
Yes,
also.
sir.
If you have any doubt
yes,
related to the examination point of view, you can ask.
Yes, sir. Oh,
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Bye.